Welcome to the Nebraska Department of Education Science of Reading Awareness course, built specifically for educators who support literacy across a variety of contexts like art, music, PE, library media, technology, and other content areas. This course is organized into 3 modules and will take about 3.5 hours to complete. The course is asynchronous, so you're welcome to move through it at your own pace. I'd like to start by grounding us in the mission of the Nebraska Department of Education. The NDE's mission is to lead and support the preparation of all Nebraskans for learning, earning, and living. This mission is the foundation for everything we do. Every educator in a school, whether you're in a classroom, the gym, the art room, music room, the library, or another learning space, helps prepare students for success. Today's professional learning is designed to strengthen that shared work by building awareness of how literacy develops and identifying practical ways every educator can support students through language-rich instruction. Building on the mission, Nebraska's 2026-2030 Strategic Plan, Good Life, Great Schools, Excellent Education, provides the roadmap for how we work together to strengthen education across our state. Today's learning directly supports the priorities in Nebraska's strategic plan. By increasing educators' understanding of how reading develops and how language supports learning, we're contributing to accelerating student achievement. By providing practical, evidence-based strategies that every educator can use, we are strengthening high-quality instruction across all learning environments. And by creating consistent, research-aligned messages about literacy, we're helping build strong systems that support students throughout their educational journey. At its core, this professional learning reflects our commitment to serving educators with practical, research-based resources that can be applied immediately to improve outcomes for Nebraska students. These priorities come to life through Nebraska's statewide literacy goals. By 2030, Nebraska is working to increase third-grade reading proficiency on the NSCAS English Language Arts Assessment to 75%. We also aim to increase the percentage of K-3 students who meet benchmark on Nebraska's approved reading assessment, so more students are on track before reading difficulties become significant. And we're working to ensure that every educator preparation program in Nebraska prepares future teachers with evidence-based literacy instruction that's grounded in the science of reading. You may notice that some of these goals focus specifically on classroom teachers and reading instruction, so you might be wondering, where do I fit in? The answer is that literacy is built through the entire school day. Students develop vocabulary, oral language, background knowledge, comprehension, and academic language every time they engage in meaningful learning. Whether that learning is in PE, art, music, the library, technology, or another instructional setting. Today's learning is about helping you understand how your role contributes to these statewide goals and providing practical strategies you can use to support literacy in the context of the instruction you already provide. This professional learning was developed in response to Nebraska Revised Statute 79-2607, which charged the Nebraska Department of Education with developing a statewide professional learning system that is grounded in evidence-based literacy instruction. Early childhood programs approved by the state board and approved in accredited schools are required to ensure educators of children age 4 through grade 3 are aware and receive adequate training. Focusing on the language from statute, it states that teachers working with students ages 4 through grade 3 be adequately trained in evidence-based literacy instruction, with no exemptions by role or content area. The NDE has interpreted this to include all educators who provide instruction or services to students ages 4 through grade 3. This professional learning is designed for educators in specialized content areas who provide literacy support but do not provide direct reading instruction to meet the legislative requirement that educators be adequately trained in evidence-based literacy instruction. While these modules were developed specifically for educators in content areas like PE, music, art, library, and technology, they are valuable for any educator who wants to deepen their understanding of evidence-based literacy practices. It is important to acknowledge that as educators in a specialized role, you are not expected to teach reading in the same way as classroom teachers or reading specialists. You play a vital role in students' literacy development by intentionally building oral language, strengthening vocabulary, expanding background knowledge, and creating meaningful learning experiences that contribute to reading comprehension and overall literacy success. To define what educators in specialized roles need to know, the Nebraska Department of Education partnered with a subcommittee of the Nebraska Literacy Advisory Panel to review the existing professional learning rubric and identify the foundational literacy knowledge appropriate for educators who support literacy across a variety of contexts. That work resulted in the Nebraska Literacy Advisory Professional Learning Rubric for educators supporting literacy across contexts. This outlined the foundational knowledge educators should have to meet Nebraska's statutory expectation of being adequately trained in evidence-based literacy instruction. Upon the completion of all learning modules, reflections, and pre- and post-assessments, the NDE considers participants adequately trained in the awareness of evidence-based literacy instruction under Nebraska Revised Statute 79-2607. This training applies only to educators who do not provide direct reading instruction. Educators whose primary responsibility includes teaching reading must complete the full evidence-based literacy training required for classroom teachers and other educators who provide direct reading instruction. Before we dive in, let's talk about how this course is designed to work. Because you're moving through this on your own, we've built in structures to keep it from being a passive experience. Throughout each module, you'll see 3 kinds of stop points. First, an orange pause and reflect slide invites you to think, write, or talk with a colleague, if available, before moving on. We recommend keeping a notebook or digital document open as your own literacy journal. We've provided a note taker that can serve as your digital notebook if you choose. Think of this as your scratch pad for the course. Second, you'll find prompts that ask you to connect each new idea directly to your own content area. And third, each module ends with a short planning task, so you walk away with strategies to use in your classroom setting. By the end of the training, there are 5 key outcomes we hope you will take away. First, you will be able to explain how children learn to read using research-based frameworks and connect those ideas to your own classroom or learning environment. Second, you will learn simple, practical routines to reinforce vocabulary and oral language as part of what you already do every day. Third, you will leave with strategies you can use in the moment when a student gets stuck, whether they're struggling to understand directions, explain their thinking, or engage with a learning task. Fourth, you'll better understand how to intentionally build knowledge and language within your own content area in ways that support students' literacy development. And finally, you'll understand the important role you play as part of Nebraska's multi-tiered system of supports. While you may not provide direct reading instruction, you will see how your everyday interactions contribute to a school-wide culture of literacy and help all students become successful readers. Here's a quick roadmap for our time together. Module 1, How Children Learn to Read, lays the foundation. We'll explore how the brain learns to read, introduce the research-based frameworks, and build awareness of reading difficulties, including dyslexia. We will also discuss important considerations for supporting multilingual learners, high-ability learners, and twice exceptional learners. Module 2 is Practical Applications Across Content Areas, is our longest module because it's where we put those ideas into practice. We will explore practical classroom routines that support literacy, including vocabulary and morphology, strategies you can use in the moment when students need support, and ways to intentionally build background knowledge and language within your own content area. Finally, Module 3, Bringing It Back to Your Setting, brings everything together. We'll connect your role to Nebraska's multi-tiered system of supports, explore how you contribute to a school-wide culture of literacy, and help you identify practical next steps through a literacy action plan you can use in your own setting. As we approach Module 1, I'd like to introduce a graphic that will serve as a foundation for our learning. Think of this as common language that we will build throughout the training. We will return to these concepts and skills, adding a new understanding and connecting them to your context. At the top of the graphic is the science of reading. We will talk more about what is the science of reading during Module 1. The 5 literacy components or pillars shown here, phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, represent the essential skills that work together to develop proficient readers. Throughout this training, you will hear these terms and we'll spend time discussing what they look like in practice. You will also notice that oracy and integrated writing instruction stretch across all of these components. Reading doesn't develop in isolation. Students build literacy through rich language experiences like speaking, listening, reading, and writing, which all reinforce one another. In the middle of the graphic is structured literacy. Structured literacy is the instructional approach that puts the science of reading into action. It emphasizes instruction that is explicit, systematic, sequential, and cumulative, so students learn skills in a purposeful progression. Finally, at the bottom of the graphic is evidence-based reading instruction. This is the broader umbrella that includes instructional practices supported by high-quality research. Structured literacy is one example of an evidence-based approach that aligns closely with the science of reading. You may not provide direct reading instruction, but becoming familiar with the language of this framework gives you a shared vocabulary with classroom teachers, reading specialists, and other members of your school's literacy team. It also helps recognize the ways literacy is supported throughout the school day. No matter your role or learning environment, you will see opportunities to reinforce these skills and concepts through your everyday interactions with students. Whether you're introducing new vocabulary, building background knowledge, encouraging discussion, or helping students explain their thinking, you are supporting the language and knowledge that contribute to literacy development. So let's get started with Module 1.